paradigm and that of the hypothesis, because wala naman kayong assumption, wala kayong guide, or wala kayong variables involved in a qualitative research. So, eto pong parts na ito ay magiging applicable lang for those who will be doing quantitative research. Okay po tayo? Naririnig po ba ako?
Yes po, dear.
Okay po, may kausap ako. Okay. So, nandiyan naman po yan sa sinend kong PowerPoint presentation para lang po medyo ano kayo. So, yung background of the study, medyo dito nagkaroon kami ng ano, pero na-discuss ko naman na sa inyo ito last week. Tama nga ba ko? Last week, okay? Binigyan ko kayo nung actually, 3 yung binigay ko sa inyo, pero parang mas madaling sundin. Kasi si Sir JM is naka-geared siya o naka-focus siya doon sa 4 paragraphs niya. Pinag-uusapan nga namin ni Migs, I am not into 4 paragraphs kasi hindi ko alam yung anong yon, yung anong tawag dito, yung structure na yon. So I do not count paragraphs. I listen to the story of the background of the study. It would be very easy for us to follow if we will be utilizing. I think that would be the second. Kasi yung kay Pollitt and Beck, it gives you 6 parts of a problem statement, di ba? Mas marami siyang hinihingi. Pero the simpler form ay yung the reality, the ideal, what is happening today, and how you conduct your study. Parang yung ganon. Though it is not limited to 3 paragraphs. Like for example, what we had with the work of Group 1, nung mag-usap kami, okay, kasi yung kanila lived experience is a qualitative research. Yung sa kanila lived experience. So sabi ko nga, what was then? Kasi ang focus nila is that of the grief and dying, the stages of grief and dying. So sabi ko, dapat makita sa background of the study nila, why do they have to study the grief and dying? The stages of grief and dying. Samantalang pwede naman itong pag-usapan sa cancer, not only sa COVID, pero bakit nandun tayo sa COVID? Maybe because there is a difference, okay, in the process ngayon. Kasi when you will be diagnosed to have cancer, you have a definite date or a definite time. For example, you have only 2 years to live, you have only 1 month to live, you have only 4 months to live, depending on the stage of the cancer. Pero ang COVID kasi parang napaka-abrupt, napaka-bilis. So it is okay with me to find, di ba, if yung stages ni Kubler-Ross ay napagdadaanan ng patients with COVID during the hospitalization. So pinag-usapan namin na we start with the grief and dying or the stages of Kubler-Ross as in general, felt or napagdadaanan, a process na pinagdadaanan of a person with a terminal illness. So yun yung pinaka-first paragraph. Then the second paragraph would be, ano ba yung nangyari doon sa patient with COVID? Tapos, ano ba yung gap? Ano ba yung nakikita nilang ano? Then, sa kanila ibigay yung ano. For doon sa case analysis na pag-usapan naman natin last week, it would be best kung mag-i-start sila that the case analysis was first and foremost a part of a strategy for you to be able to understand, okay, and analyze a case, an actual patient case. That was before. That was the idea. We learned, okay, the cases from a case presentation or a case analysis. But now that could be the first statement, okay, that could be discussed in the first paragraph. But for now, ano na yung nangyari? Nawala yung actual patient interaction. Ang nabigay nila ay patient case or case analysis or case presentation given. It may be based on an actual patient or it may be a make-believe case, okay, or adapted case from the internet or from whatever source. But nevertheless, okay, nakadepende on the questions that would be asked by the instructor for you to be able to explore that case, okay, for that to be used for case analysis, enhancing your problem-solving technique. So that could be the second paragraph. What happened? Ano nangyari? Bakit biglang naging ganito? Bakit naging ganyan case study? Then on the third paragraph, you can form, yun kagaya din nung sa first group, what would you like to see? What is the gap between the two, the reality and what is happening, or the ideal and the reality? Then the fourth paragraph could be, what would you do? What could be the possible, what would be the design on how you will do, okay, the research? So that could, the design. Pwede nyo na sabihin, that's why you will be having your quantitative research or a comparative research or an experimental research. But again, the effectiveness, if it is not a comparative, medyo nahihirapan kasi tayo when it comes to the effectiveness. Magiging subjective kasi yung effectiveness at parang given na, okay, that it would be, syempre, mas magaling at mas magiging effective kung meron kang actual plus the case press. So I think when it comes to, I don't know how you will measure it. So ganun din yan sa technology. Sa background of the statement pa lang, ganun din yung umpisahan nyo. What is done? Ano yung nangyayari ngayon, di ba? Pero with the advent of research and technology, maraming na nadidiscover, which could be of help to minimize the work of nurses. Pwede yun. Tapos yung adjustment bago tapos yung research nyo, yung design. So that would be your background of the study. Sabi ko nga, I will not be on, if you will be asking me to check on your research, I will not be counting on the paragraph submitted, but I'll be looking for the cuento, the story, okay, from the first paragraph to that of the last paragraph that you have. Basta ang importante with the background of the study, your first statement or your first statement in each paragraph should be explored sa whole paragraph. I mean, hindi pwedeng maglabo-labo. So dapat medyo mabigat at may dating na agad first statement niyo pa lang. Kasi yung first statement niyo yun yung magdedetermine ng buong paragraph ninyo. Okay? So, yesterday I was asked by somebody na na-assign daw, actually si Stephen, na-assign siya sa theoretical framework at paano daw gawin. So, may background ba kayo on doing your theoretical framework? How do you do your theoretical framework? Sa senior high school, anong tinuro sa inyo paano gawin ng theoretical framework? And what is a theoretical framework? Anybody would like to share their experience sa senior high school? Hello? Mukhang picture na naman ang nasa harap ko. Experience sa senior high school. Sinang gumawa ng quantitative, kahit qualitative, you have your theoretical framework. Ano na yung theoretical framework? What is a theoretical framework? Actually, this is one of the, hindi naman most, apply po yung mga theories. Yes. So, paano ka mag-identify ng, so I have to open my chat kasi doon kayo sumasagot. Apply po yung mga theories sa research. Okay, very good. So, ito po yung, you will look for theories that is applicable o tama, that will support the research po. Like example, yung health belief model, para po, ganun po. So, how do you find a theory? It would be depending on the research question that you have. It would be depending on the variables or the factors na meron kayo. Like for example nga po, yung health belief model. So if your anong tawag dito? Research ay naka-focus on tawag dito? Focusing on a healthy lifestyle or a change in lifestyle or a change in behaviors, okay, because of a certain factor. So pwede natin gamitin yung health belief model. So ang theoretical framework are theories, okay, na pagbabasihan natin, or kaya nga siya framework, siya yung basihan, siya yung, ano tawag dito, parang model, okay, kung saan yung ating research ay magiging kapareho. Mag-guide sa research natin, okay, para mabuo. Okay, like for example, yung sa anong tawag dito? Sa group 1, they use the Kubler-Ross. Okay, it's a theory na pwedeng yung kwento ng pasyente nila would be based on, or i-compare nila with that of the Kubler-Ross. Actually, there are different theories on the stages of grief and dying, I think, because in one of the seminar I have attended, or a case or a research presentation I have attended, hindi niya ginamit si Kubler-Ross. Iba yung ginamit niya na theory. At yun yung gagawin nyo. Kay ang hirap po kasi na may title ka na bago ka mag-theory. Mas madali po yung may theory kang sinundan bago ka nag-title or bago ka nag-identify ng variables. So mas madali po yon kesa doon sa may variables ka tapos maghahanap ka ng theory. Kasi you will be looking for other researches, okay, na ginamit yung variables mo. Tapos you will look for their theoretical theories at theoretical framework. Pwede rin po yan para madali. Pero sometimes, hindi naman po kayo magkakapare-pareho ng variables na gagamitin ng ibang researchers, kaya medyo ano pa rin siya. So, pipiliin niyo po yung theory with the same variables that you have para po at paano siya ginamit sa ibang research para mas makatulong po sa inyo when it comes to your study. Hindi siya mas madali kasi nga kung may framework na kayo, like for example, this health belief model, ayan na yung framework nyo, tapos ipapasok nyo na lang yung variables nyo, mas madali yan. Pero mas mahirap po yung naisip nyo si title, tapos wala po tayo naiisip na variable. Ang importante po dito, maliwanag sa inyo what are your variables, para pag nag-research kayo sa literature, you will look for the same variables on the different researches na mababasa nyo. Tapos, you adapt the most na related doon sa inyong study. Okay, that would be your theoretical framework. So yung theory po, we do not prove or disprove them. Okay? So ang atin lang po, sabi ko nga po sa inyo, if we will be having the same findings as that of the theory, then we will just make the theories stronger. Na-strengthen lang natin siya. Pero hindi natin siya ipin-prove. Though the theory is, sabi nga dyan sa PowerPoint nyo, it is created because yung theory, bago maging theory, ay nag-undergo siya ng napakaraming researches. Ay para mapatunayan lang natin that they have the same findings, na ganun talaga yung pinagdadaanan. Like for example, because before yung kay Kubler-Ross ay naging theory, it underwent different studies. Okay, I remembered when I was doing my research in 2010, before pa 2010, halos nakikita ko doon sa journals, I study ni Beck about postpartum depression. So, ang dami-daming, halos every month or every other month or every year, mayroong postpartum depression. Until finally, it became a theory, okay, yung postpartum depression ni Beck. So, ganun po yun. So, if your study would naman have a different result with that of your theory, then yung theory nyo could be weakened. Napapahina niya lang si theory. Or pwede siyang paltan kung mag-strengthen mo yung panibagong nakita or na ano. Pero hindi siya proof, hindi siya proven, okay? Hindi ginagamit yung word na proven. Okay? So what's the difference between theoretical framework and conceptual framework? Anong kaibahan? Kasi after theoretical framework, for those who will be doing quantitative research, you will be doing conceptual framework. Bakit ko ito iniisa-isa na? So as sabi ko nga po kasi, pwede nyo na kasing i-assign itong different parts na ito doon sa iba niyong kagrupo para halos sabay natatapos itong mga parts na ito doon sa pag-finalize ninyo ng background of the study. Though, again, hindi niyo masyado magagawa naman talaga lahat to kung hindi malinaw sa inyo. Pero kung malinaw na sa inyo yung variables ninyo, malinaw na sa inyo yung researches nyo, then pwede niyo na pong i-assign. Okay? Etong mga anong tawag dito? Topics na ito to some of your members para hindi kayong 4 or 5 nakafocus lang sa isang background of the study lang. For example, 5 na kayo nagtatrabaho. So pwede nyo nang i-assign yung isa to do, for example, the related literature, yung 2. Ilan ba kayo sa grupo? How many are you in the group? 4 lang? So, one could be finalizing your background of the study and the statement of the problem hanggang hypothesis. Then the other one, the other one, actually pwedeng yung 2 on the related literature, tapos isa dun sa methodology sa chapter 3. Para medyo mas madali kayong umusad kesa yung sabay-sabay nyo siyang gagawin isa-isa. Like for example, kayong 4 gagawa ng theoretical framework, kayong 4 gagawa ng conceptual framework hanggang sa matapos kayo sa chapter 3. Medyo ano po yun, medyo magiging off. Though sabi ko nga po, you have to know how to do each part of this research. It would be a burden kung 4 kayo palagi sa isang class, sa isang konsepto. Dapat po magkaroon kayo ng division of work, division of labor, but kayo work in harmony. Because hindi pwedeng maghiwa-hiwalay yung isip at utak ninyo na dapat siya nakafocus lang on the problem. So anybody who would differentiate theoretical from conceptual framework? Meron po. What's the difference? Para nandiyan na yan sa ano ko, sa notes ko. Yung conceptual framework po kasi sa madaling salita, okay? Ito yung ayan nakalagay dyan. A conceptual framework represents the researcher's synthesis of the literature on how to explain a phenomenon. So, nag-aral naman po tayo ng PFN, right? So, nakakita po kayo ng kanilang assumption. Nakakita rin po tayo na bawat theory po ay merong paradigm. Tama. So, ganun po yun dito sa research. Yun po, kasi di ba ang theory is a combination of different variables and its relationship to each other. So, ganun din po yung mangyayari dito sa conceptual framework ninyo. Pero ito po ay yung how you visualize yung inyong research to happen. What are the variables? Will you prove a relationship? Yung ganon. I would advise, okay, that you do away with the IPO, the input, process, output paradigm. Okay? Kasi medyo 2010 po nang ako po ay nag-research, at hindi na po nila ini-encourage ang IPO. Okay? Ito nga yung sinasabi ko po sa inyo that when you do your conceptual paradigm, the framework is the explanation in paragraph of your paradigm. Okay? The conceptual paradigm is the illustration of your conceptual framework through boxes, arrows, lines, circles. Okay? Yun po yung conceptual paradigm. Okay. Sige nga po, makakita nga po ako ng okay kung naiintindihan niyo yung sinasabi ko. We're on the third, okay, part of your chapter 1, the conceptual framework. Okay, yung conceptual framework ulit, the conceptual framework is how you envision or visualize your variables, okay, or the process of your research, okay, through your variables and their relationship. Kaya po napakadali ng input, output at process. Though sabi ko nga po medyo pinaganda rin lang naman, pero pag makikita nyo rin naman po yung quantitative research, it's an IB-DB din lang naman. Most probably. Okay, the IB and that of the DB connected with arrow. Pero sabi ko nga po, if you could have an imagination, a broad imagination on how you conceptualize your research, then you could have a broad imagination of the paradigm. Like, for example, that of, do you still remember the paradigm of the health belief model? Diba marami siyang boxes connected with arrows. Nandiyan din po yan sa, sa PowerPoint. Binigay ko yan as example. That of self-care ni Ore. So, it is circles naman yun nandito sa tapos ginoin siya ng mga arrows. Okay? So, sabi niya, di ba, yung self-care, tama? Yung self-care, kalimitan naman po talaga sa atin ay kaya nating alagaan ang sarili natin. But when the self-care demands increases that of the self-care agency, kasi sabi niya, di ba, equal or meron silang arrow na nagtuturoan silang dalawa. The self-care agency and that of the self-care demand should be equal. Once the self-care demand ay nag-exceed doon sa agency, meaning doon sa capacity mo for self-care, then doon papasok yung nursing agency. So yun po yung explanation niya. Okay? So ganun din po yung sa inyo. Dapat po ma-proseso nyo yung interactions ng mga variables nyo at ma-identify nyo yung mga variables nyo, then you make a paradigm of your own. So, marami na po kayo nakitang sample nitong paradigm nito when you do your TFN. So, pwede na po kayong anong tawag dito? Maging malikot ang isip para makagawa kayo ng magandang paradigm. In my experience and the definition sa book kasi ng paradigm, it is by boxes, arrows, lines, circles. So, it's shapes. Okay? Pero nung nagturo ako sa EDUC, naging malikot yung isip nila. So they even form pictures, they even represent it with flowers. Ako kasi hindi ako nasanay ng gano'n. And medyo nag-stick ako dun sa paradigm or lines, boxes, or gano'n. Pero as I was researching this conceptual paradigm, I saw pictures na. Pero kasi hindi ako nakakita niyan sa research. Okay? Pero kaya ako I still am into lines, boxes, squares, circles, ganyan. So, ganun pa rin. So, ulit, the conceptual framework is the narrative. Okay? It's the kwento of the conceptual paradigm. The conceptual paradigm ay a representation or picture of your conceptual framework. So, wag kayong malilito doon, ha? So, yung po pagkakasunod ng conceptual framework at conceptual paradigm could be interchanged depending on the space that you have in your research. Kasi po, hindi pwede natin putulin ang inyong paradigm into half, tapos yung kalahati nandun na sa second page. At hindi rin po tayo pwedeng mag-iwan. You do not leave a large space in your research. So, the placement of your conceptual framework and your conceptual paradigm would depend on the space, on how you, on your research. Pagka maliit na lang yung space, unahin nyo na si conceptual framework kasi the conceptual framework pwede siyang putulin. Pero yung conceptual paradigm, hindi. Pag malaki yung space, then start with the conceptual paradigm, then the conceptual framework. So, hindi po siya, pwede po siya pagpalitin. Okay po? Pero yung theoretical framework, hindi. Pero kung yung spacing, pero kung gusto nyo ipakita yung conceptual paradigm ng theory ninyo, pwede rin naman po. Pero kung yung space po ay limitado, pwede nyo na siyang isulat or ilagay dun sa appendices. May question po tayo dun sa unang tatlo. Hindi. Ilan na ba to? Tama. 4. Background, theoretical framework, conceptual paradigm. Kasi you have to do it na. Gusto ko na kayong gisingin, okay, that you have to make double time in doing your research already. Kasi po, mahirap kung siya ay i-carry over ninyo for next SEM. Tapos yung next SEM nyo po would be more difficult because we do not know if we can have the face-to-face already. Actually, we had a post in our group chat of deans that the ADPCN had submitted to CHED a CMO on our skills and RLE if wala pa rin pong face-to-face. So, inaantay po natin yon for some guidelines for the second semester. Okay? So, question po. Kasi, ano po to, inaasahan ko na po na yung bakasyon natin ay pwedeng maputol, pwedeng masingitan, okay, ng paggawa ng research. Ako, I have 9 groups to check. Kung sa akin po kaya mas gusto ko pong tutukan na natin to. Okay? Because I really do not know kung maki-carry over nyo to for second SEM, though we have some experiences na na-extend naman talaga yung proposal. Pero hindi pwedeng carry over because your grade in research 1 is a prerequisite for your research 2. Okay? So question po tayo, background, theoretical, conceptual, framework, at paradigm. Meron din po ako nilagay dyan. Ano po ang kailangang hanapin doon sa theoretical framework? Actually, ang sabi doon, dapat alam nyo kung sino yung author ng theory, kailan nag-start. Okay? Halimbawa, 1976 siya. Yung 1976, wag nyo enclose in parenthesis, ha? Kasi pag in-enclose nyo in parenthesis yun, it would look like to be a reference. So, wag nyo enclose in parenthesis yung date. Okay? Tapos, isulat nyo na po, this could be a copy-paste from your literature. Ano ba yung theory nila? Explain in toto what is the theory. Tapos, saka nyo ilagay lang siguro in summary, bakit siya yung pinili yung theory, okay? Para makatulong dun sa inyong research. Wala na po tayong problema? Magagawa dahil hihintayin ko po ito. Okay? Dapat I will be accepting parts of your research from chapter 1 to 3 bago matapos ang semester, dapat na-propose nyo na po yan. Question po. Pag di kayo nagtanong, ibig sabihin, maliwanag na sa inyo. Tama. Okay, punta na ako sa susunod. Ulitin ko po, statement of the problem in qualitative research, okay, does not need questions. Wala dapat tanong. If it is a qualitative research, then ang magiging ano nyo lang dyan, ang pinaka-importante nyo lang dyan ay yung verb na gagamitin nyo. Okay? The research would like to explore on the lived experiences of COVID-19 hospitalized patients. Doon sa kanilang stages of grief and dying, parang something like that lang. So wala po tayong mga questions na itatanong doon. And kung meron man po kayong questions, isa-submit nyo lang po sa akin, ipapakita nyo lang po sa akin because those are guide questions, okay? Para makita ko lang po kung may relevance yung mga guide questions ninyo. Pero it should not be part of your statement of the problem. Kasi ang qualitative research po ay hindi guided by your expectation or expected answers from. Dapat po kasi pag qualitative, you explore. You look for meaning, you look for pattern based on what your participants would be telling you. So hindi ito nakabase on tatlong tanong, tapos pag nasagot na ito ng respondent, lipat na ako sa isang respondent or participant, tapos lipat na ulit ako sa isang participant. It's not that. A qualitative research would be a story, a lived experience of your participant. So hindi mo siya pwedeng baliin, hindi mo siya pwedeng limitahan, hindi mo siya pwedeng though, what I mean by limitahan, ay limitahan lang sa mga tanong na naisip ninyo. Pero, huwag niyo naman din masyadong palawakin. Kasi baka naman nagkukwento na yung pasyente nyo tungkol sa kanyang, anong tawag dito, ibang buhay. Pwede nyo naman po, kaya po meron kayong mga guide questions. Ito po yung mga pambato para po bumalik kayo doon sa tamang usapan. Okay? So again, you can have your guide questions with you, but it should not be written in the statement of the problem. No. Okay? Kasi ang mangyayari, meron po kasi ano sa amin yan, anong tawag dito? Nag-seminar sa amin. Actually, ano siya, head ng research. Ipinesent niya yung study niya with guide questions. And the questions are taken from literature. Hindi siya yung inquiry talaga na are taken from literature. What do you think is a good leader? For example, like that. What do you think is a good leader? Or meron siyang basta and tinawag niya na to na qualitative. For me, it's not a qualitative research because a qualitative research ay dapat po manggagaling sa inyong participants ang magiging description niya of a good leader without anything na pinasok mo. Okay? So, yun lang po yung sa akin. So, ibig sabihin sa statement of the problem, only quantitative research ang magkakaroon po ng questions. And sabi ko nga po, kasi sa iba pong institution, andun yung what, how, okay. Sabi nga po sa inyo, I patterned our structure dun po sa aming research. I do not know kung nabago na rin po ang pattern or structure ng PLM when it comes to the research. Pero kasi po para sa akin, para siyang mas madali for an undergrad study. Parang pwede na po kayo mag-what sa graduate studies ninyo. Pero for an undergrad study, parang mas madali kayong nababantayan. If you will be just looking on the level of, okay? Like for example, the question like, how may, okay, be described in terms of, yung mga ganon, or what is the level of, medyo madali kasi pag kayo, nakatutok lang kayo sa dalawa niyong variables, that of the independent and that of the dependent variables. Tapos nakatutok kayo dun sa variables, then the third question would be a relationship question. Okay po. Ako kasing kopya ng mga binubura ko na kasi. Pero ganun lang po kasi yung niya. Pagka po may nag-submit na sa akin ng quantitative, I will try to restructure your statement of the problem doon sa medyo madaling format for as long as I can identify your variables and your sub-variables. Okay. Para po pagdating ng statement o ng hypothesis po natin, okay, it is just a repetition of the last question in the statement of the problem in a null form. So kung ang inyo pong tawag dito, third question is there a relationship or is there a difference between two variables? Then ang inyo lang pong hypothesis is there is no significant relationship or there is no significant difference. Okay? Para po medyo madali na siya. Yun yung hypothesis. Significance of the study, alam niyo na po ito. So, what would be the significance? Sino yung makikinabang ng study niya? And this is the part of the research that will always be in future tense. Okay? So, yung pong research nyo ngayon, wala po akong makikita dapat na past tense kasi wala pa kayong ginagawa. Lahat po ito present tense or future tense. Okay? Ito lang po sa next SEM, lahat po yan ita-translate nyo na sa past tense kasi ginawa nyo na, nagkaroon na ng implementation, may result na, may findings na. And this is the only part, the significance of the study, this is the only part, okay, that will remain to be in future tense. Okay? So significance of the study is significance to people who will benefit from your research. So maliwanag naman po ito siguro sa inyo. Okay? So another misunderstanding ang nagkakaroon po tayo is the scope and limitation. Ang sa atin po kasi scope and limitation. Sa ito po, scope and the limitation. Nandyan din po sa PowerPoint niyo what's the difference between scope, the limitation, and limitation. Ang scope po at the limitation ay halos pareho in konteksto. Kaya po ang sa atin ginagamit natin ay scope and limitation. Ang scope po kasi ano yung nasasakupan. Like, for example, if your study is a quantitative study focusing on senior high school, yung the limitation nyo lang would just identify that this senior high school are those in grade 11, okay, or grade 12. So yun yung the limitation. Nag-set na kayo ng limit doon sa scope ninyo. The limitation ay meron kayong control. Like for example, if you would just like to have the female, okay, students of the senior high school, or if you would just like to have the male students of senior high school, or if you would like to have only the middle-aged, or a working group of, for example, 1 or 2 companies. So yan po yung mga delimitation. So what is limitation? Ang limitation naman po ay yung mga hindi nyo control. According to dun sa example nyo, like for example, grade 3 or grade 5 ang focus ninyo. On the date that you conduct your survey, umabsent yung isang bata. So yan po yung mga limitasyon. Or umabsent ang kalahati ng ano dahil may baha or may ulan or may yan po yung limitation because it's not within your control. So if you, for example, if you target to get the whole population of the nurses at Calamba Doctors Hospital, ang limitasyon nyo would be some of the nurses cannot or were not able to participate doon sa inyong research kasi they were off. Kung yan po ay one time nyo lang binigay, pero kung like for example, binigay nyo siya ng 3 days naman or ano, so hindi naman masyadong marami ang limitasyon nun. Okay? So ayan po yung mga limitasyon na hindi nyo po kontrolado. Like for example, kung halimbawa po nag-o-online kayo and not everybody would be answering no inyong online questionnaire, that would be your limitation, di ba? Or hindi nyo maibato kasi wala naman internet yung iba. So yun yung po mga limitasyon that is beyond your control. Pero yung the limitation are limitations of your study na meron kayong control. Kagaya nga po nung sinabi ko kanina, babae lang, lalaki lang, ages ganito lang, tapos sa ganitong lugar lang. So yan po mga limitasyon. Pero sa atin po, ilalagay nyo na rin siya sa scope. Okay? Kaya po yung scope and limitation nyo, pwede pong hindi maging finished na totoo, i-revise nyo po yan pag natapos na po. Kasi minsan doon ka magkakaroon ng limitation. Or kung outright may limitation ka, like for example, money, pera, alam mo na agad na meron, pero wala ka pa rin control doon, then pwede mo na yung ilagay. Okay? So, ano pa? That would be your scope and limitation. Yung definition of terms, maliwanag na po sa atin yun, di ba? Yes po, magkahiwalay po na dapat na paragraph, yung scope and limitation, kung mahaba po siya. Pero minsan po kasi, nagiging, sabi nga po sa inyo, nagiging ano na lang naman yan, pinapattern nyo na lang, sinusundan nyo na lang yung mga iba. So, minsan yung scope, inaano lang nila, the study is a quantitative study about gantong variables, tapos the limitation, medyo maigsi lang yung ginagawa nila. Pero kung maganda yung pagkaka-waterman nyo ng scope and limitation nyo, mas maganda siyang magkahiwala. Another question. Before I finish your introduction, punta na po tayo sa chapter 2 after this. Question po sa chapter 1. Yung ang tawag dito, yung sa significance of the study nyo, mag-a-assume na kayo ha, mag-a-assume na kayo, may assumption na kayo para makita nyo na yung significance dun sa mga tao. Like for example, kung yung case analysis ba is a good representation or a good strategy para ma-enhance yung problem-solving technique, problem-solving or decision-making skill ninyo, problem-solving skill ninyo, sino yung magiging beneficiary, no? So, ang magiging beneficiary, no, is the students themselves, di ba? Kasi even though they do not have the face-to-face or the meet-up or an actual patient care, na-enhance pa rin yung ano nila. So, that would be benefit or benefiting to students. So, will it benefit the teachers? Siyempre. Bakit? Pagpapatunayan natin that the case analysis could be a strategy that could be utilized in this kind of situation, then yung teacher would be able to, tawag dito, realize or maano niya that, dapat magbigay ako ng magandang case analysis because the case analysis is helping, okay, the students in their problem solving skills. Pero kung halimbawa, hindi, nakita natin na wala, zero, wala itong naitutulong, then the faculty would be able to identify other strategies or, okay, to enhance the problem solving technique or enhance the case analysis or the cases given to you, mas i-enhance nila, mas gagawin nilang near to actual patient, near to, para mas ma-entice kayo to do your problem solving. Or they would add additional questions or different types or di ba yung question pwede nilang baguhin or yung presentation pwede nilang baguhin or add other strategies kasi sabi wala hindi ganon. So ganon po yung mangyayari sa significance. Okay? So may tanong pa po ba?
Wala pa po.
Wala pa. Nagkakaintindihan pa tayo.
Opo.
Okay. So pwede na ang pumunta ng chapter 2. So we go to chapter 2. Ano ba yung chapter 2? The review of related literature. So yung chapter 2 po ninyo ay, ano ang tawag dito? Review of related literature. Sabi nga, hindi na po natin ginagamit yung related literature, related studies, di ba? Local, tapos yung mga foreign literature, wala na po tayong ganong, sino gumamit sa inyo ng senior high school na ganong klase ng related lit? Yung hindi by topic, by geography. Meaning may foreign literature, local literature, foreign study, local study. Meron gumamit na ganon? Anong ginamit niya sa related literature na? Nag-research ba kayo ng senior high school? Mga anak, kayo nag-research ng senior high school? Na 2 taon, nakalimutan na. O 3 taon na ba? Kaya nakalimutan na. How did you do your related literature? May topic din? Walang sumasagot. Oo nga po. By topic? By topic nyo siya ginawa? Foreign at local.
Opo.
Then synthesize. Hindi po tayo magpo-foreign at local. Kasi kung mapapansin niyo po, pag magpo-foreign at local tayo, magiging pabalik-balik po tayo ng kwento. Like for example, I will be looking for local literature and looking for local studies na pareho po sa akin. Tapos i-discuss ko, like for example, i-discuss yung study or literature about, anong tawag dito? Ano pa ba yung mga researches nyo? Sabihin na natin that there are literature na gumawa na about COVID. So, i-discuss ko si COVID based on the foreign literature or foreign study. Tapos, pag gawa ako ng local, di-discuss ko ulit si COVID according to local literature at local study. So, ang gagawin po natin, itatopic na natin siya. Itatopic head na natin si COVID-19. Tapos doon po, okay, babangga-bangga na natin yung nabasa natin para magkaroon tayo ng isang magandang kwento. Meaning, yung nabasa po natin sa local literature o ginawa sa local study could be supplemented by those done in the foreign study so that they will be telling us the same. So this is when, kung mapapansin niyo po, kung nakapagbasa na kayo ng related literature, ang dami nilang author. Like for example, Dacres masyado na akong matanda sa 19. For example, Dacres 2013, tapos Redondo 2015, tapos Dowden 2018, meaning we have the same na sinasabi, kahit hindi word for word na sinasabi. The thought na inilagay natin doon sa literature, pare-pareho kami ng sinasabi. So, kaya napapansin nyo, pwede yung ganon. So, instead of sinabi ni Dacres, inulit ni Redondo, inulit ni Dowden, pwede yung kumuha ng isang thought or idea na sila yung tatlo, masasite yung silang tatlo. Or, pwede rin naman po na kumuha kayo kay Dacres, tapos supportahan nyo nung kay Redondo, bago yung kay Dowden. Okay? Pero, I do not know kung ano yung inano sa inyo ni Sir J.M. Anong year? 5 years o 10 years? Kayo inallowed ni Sir J.M.? Yung related lit ninyo? 5 years or 10 years? Nagtanggal ako ng ano. Ako pala yung nakaano lang. Nakikita ba ako? Hindi na ako nagbihis eh. Akala kasi madali lang yung kwentuhan natin. Oh, ano na? Ganun ha. Magkasama na po. Hindi magkahiwalay si foreign at si local. Dapat topic. Kung ang topic niyo po ay like for example, technology. So, talk about technology. Tapos, ano yung mga disadvantages ng technology. Tapos, kung ano pa yung susunod yung variable, then talk about the next variable. Tapos, how did you do your synthesis? Kasi nakalagay dito, then, synthesize po. How did you do your synthesis? Are you taking
Sa amin
notes?
po kasi din, yung ginagawa po namin sa synthesis po. Ano po din to dito? Di ba po, alimbawa yung isang paragraph, may sinasabi po yung mga iba-iba pong author doon. Tapos parang pinapaliwanag po namin kung anong implication po nun, ganun.
Implication saan?
Doon po sa topic, alimbawa po, Halimbawa po, contrasting po yung nung sinasabi po nung dalawang author, ganun lang din.
Yung iba, paano nila ginawa yung kanilang synthesis? Alam niyo, ito kasi pinakamahirap sa chapter 2. Yung pag-synthesize. Kasi ito, dapat alam mo yung related literature mo. Okay? In your synthesis, alam mo dapat yung mga different studies related to your studies. Okay? What are the variables they used? What is the similarity of those research to your research? Actually, ganun lang po siyang kasimple. It is the similarity and difference of other researches to your research. Yun lang po yung synthesis. It is not a summary of your related literature. Yung synthesis po. Okay? So, mahaba po kasi yung related literature nyo. Hindi mo siya isa-summarize into 2, 3, 4, 5 paragraphs. Okay? Ang gagawin niyo po, kaya po yung synthesis is sa umpisa sa proposal, okay, it would be your assumption. It would be against your assumption. It would be against yung kung paano nyo nakikita, your conceptual framework, yung synthesis nyo. Pero at the end of your research, yung synthesis nyo would be including, okay, the actual findings of your research. So it could be, for example, the similarity is you have the same variable, but, okay, independent variable, but the difference could be you only have the dependent variable, similar to the other researches that. Or you may have a difference in the design, okay? Or you may have a significant difference in the participants. So yan po yung sa synthesis ninyo. Okay. Okay na po. Maliwanag po. Topic, tapos may synthesis. Hinahanap po yan ni Ma'am Lau dyan, no? When you present...
Dean, may tanong po ako.
Yes po.
Dun po ba sa synthesis, alimbawa po, ano po ba yun? Overall na po ng lit bago po kami mag-synthesize or per paragraph po?
Per paragraph na
Kasi
lit?
Opo, ganun po ba? O overall na po yun?
Mahirapan ka doon. You will just choose studies, okay, na related doon po sa iyong study. Then you do the similarity and differences. Kasi not all in your related literature are studies, some of which are literature. Taken from books, taken from an article, or, okay, pero hindi siya research-based. Yun po sa synthesis nyo ay research-based comparison. Okay po. Yan. Pag nag-present kayo sa proposal, okay, hindi nyo kailangan basahin the whole related literature. Okay, because it will take time. You just cite, okay, related studies that would be similar or different from your study, or in whatever way, in the design, or the variables, first and foremost in the variables. Pero kung may different design, or may different design and different participants, yun po yung nalang i-discuss ninyo. Tapos yung synthesis. Okay? So next, we go to chapter 3. So ano-ano yung nasa chapter 3? It's the methodology. Okay? So you have the research design. Actually, yung research local, I will be permitting you to do the research or make the research local. Pero dapat po yan generalized, hindi specific. Because if it is specific, it might be, anong tawag dito? Yung data privacy po kasi. So, kung siya ay kasing lawak ng Kalamba, pwede naman po. Nasabihin natin that your research is done in Kalamba. Ganon kalawak. Pero last, pinatanggal na namin kasi yung research local kasi nga gawa ng data privacy. Though, sa iba pong research, and ini-include na po nila yung ethical consideration. I will be asking Ma'am Laudiano kung doon sa kanyang bagong ginawang primer, ay naka-include na po yung ethical consideration. So yung ethical consideration lang naman would be discussing that you have consented or that the participants have consented, okay, given the risk-benefit of the research. Tapos wala kayong plagiarism na ginawa. Again, sabi ko nga po, anything that you copy, hindi naman po masama, basta lang po, i-cite ninyo po kung saan yung kinopya. Okay? So, yun po kasi kalimitan. Confidentiality, yun po yung kalimitan eh. Consent, plagiarism, confidentiality, or anonymity, especially sa ano kasi, madali ang anonymity sa quanti. Huwag lang isulat yung pangalan, anonymous na yon. Pero sa quali kasi, ay mas dapat aalagaan ninyo ang anonymity, okay, noong inyong participant. So, I will ask Ma'am Laudiana if we will be considering the ethical consideration as part of your chapter 3. So, after the local, ano yung nakasulat? Sample and sampling technique. Tama. So, sa sample po, i-describe ninyo sino yung participants ninyo. In some of the research, they always include the demographic profile in their statement of the problem. When I was doing my research, hindi na po yan pinadagdag, hindi na po yan pinasama. Kasi po, pag in-include nyo siya sa statement of the problem, then you have to analyze it through tables and analysis. Okay? Kung hindi po importante sa inyo yung demog profile, huwag nyo na po siyang isama sa statement of the problem. Pero ma'am, kailangan namin demog profile. Then, i-describe ninyo yung sample nyo doon sa chapter 3. Like, for example, you have 100 respondents, 60% of which ay female, 40% ay male. So, doon na nakadiscuss. Hindi na siya para ilagay natin doon sa anong tawag dito? Sa statement of the problem. Kasi pag nilagay niyo sa statement of the problem ninyo, sasabihin pa natin bakit 60% ang female, bakit 40% ang male. So, kailangan i-analyze niyo pa. Meron ba tayong control doon? Di ba wala? Pero kung halimbawa, kailangan niyo ng social status. So, hindi. Ano tawag dito? Socio-economic status ng family. Then isama nyo sa statement of the problem nyo. Kung yun ay kasama doon sa variable ninyo. Pero anything that is not included in your variable, pero gusto nyo lang ma-identify yung participants nyo on how many male, how many female, ano pa ba yung ibang demo profile na tinatanong ninyo, age group, ganyan. So, i-discuss nyo na po yan doon sa sample. Okay? Yung sampling technique ay ano ang ginamit ninyong sampling technique. Then, the reason. Then, the definition based on literature. Yun lang po yun. And mostly for quantitative research, mostly, okay, we use purposive. So what is a purposive sampling technique? Ano yung purposive? Yung pong respondents ay pinpointed by the researchers based on the criteria. Okay, doon po rin sa sample, i-discuss nyo na rin po doon yung criteria on how did you choose your respondents. Okay? Para pagdating doon sa purposive, sa definition ng purposive, pinpoint you in your respondents based on the criteria that you have set. Like for example, ang kailangan nyo ay grade ay nursing student, level 2, level 3, because they are the ones having the case analysis. The purposive. Hindi ka pupunta sa level 1. Diba? Pupuntahan mo level 2 at level 3 na nagka-case analysis as strategy in their RLE and skills lab. So, yun po yun. Kaya yun po yung sampling technique. Sa kalimitan po yan, in whatever na ano natin, quanti or quali, kalimitan sa atin, purposive. Pero kung halimbawa, limited, okay, limited yung participant mo, konti lang yung kakilala mo, then you do the snowball. Okay? Yung snowball technique. Yung referral. Halimbawa, ako, COVID patient, halimbawa ako. So, wala kang masyadong kilalang COVID patient. Ako na hospitalized. So, I have met somebody. So, i-refer ko siya sa iyo. So, yan po yung snowball. Referral siya. Okay. So, i-define nyo lang po siya according to literature or book definition. Then, that's it. Ano lang yung ano nyo sa sample? Kasi sa sample, magsiset kayo ng criteria. Okay po. Maliwanag. Question. Wala. Puro kayo nakasara ang mic. Punta na po tayo sa ano susunod? Research instrument. Okay. So sa research instrument po, for qualitative, you will not be using a questionnaire. Ha? Ulit. And ano yung research instrument pag qualitative? Ano yung gagamitin yung technique? It's interview. Okay? Pero pag quantitative, you will be using questionnaire. Okay? So, pagka dyan sa research instrument, i-identify ninyo if your questionnaire is self-made or adapted. If it is adapted, then you have to cite, okay, who's the author of the questionnaire. Then, i-discuss nyo how many items, what are the variables, the Likert scale, i-discuss nyo lahat yon. Okay, for a quantitative, yun yung research instrument. So, if it is a self-made, ibig sabihin, from the literature search na ginawa ninyo, you formulate your own questionnaire. At pag na-formulate kayo ng questionnaire, part of, okay, na dapat niyong gawin is, anong gagawin niyo dapat? Pag self-made, pag adapted kasi, good. Kasi nagamit na yan. The validity and the reliability of the questions are proven effective. Okay? Pero pag self-made, anong gagawin nyo? Magagawa pa kayo ng pilot, test. Okay? You will not give it to the actual participants first. You have to give it to participants or respondents similar to that of their criteria. Okay? Like for example, if you will be using senior high school students of Calamba Doctors College, you may ask senior high school students of other schools. They have the same criteria, grade 11 and 12, male and female, okay, enrolled in, yung ganon. So, ibig sabihin, magkapareho sila ng criteria. Pero para wag nilang mabawasan, okay, yung iyong respondents doon sa school, you will get another school. Or, kung masyado namang marami at magiging sufficient yung inyong respondents doon sa iyong school na pupuntahan, pwede mo siyang gamitin sa isang grupo, pero hindi mo na gagamitin yung sumagot sa pilot study mo doon sa actual research mo. So, ano yung hahanapin mo pag nag-pilot study ka? Sino sa inyo nag-conduct ng pilot study? Wala din?
Bago po sa pandinig din sa akin.
Actually, I don't know, hindi ko pa nakikita kung sino nandito. Pasensya na po kayo ha, kasi it was Migs, ang ulit kong kausap. I was telling Migs, hindi ko alam kung paano ba, hindi ko alam kung nakakonsensya ba ako or what. Paano ko ba itaterm? Research kasi is part of your board exam questions. Hindi kayo makakaligtas sa board exam questions ng research. And it was late for me to realize that dapat napaghanda ako yung lecture part. Okay? Hindi ko alam kung paano ipapatch yung gap. Kasi siguro, this is a realization. Ang iniisip ko kasi before yung research kasi is, okay na kasi 2 research ang nakuha niyo sa senior high school eh. And you have conducted research in senior high school. Only to realize na hindi ganon ka-stable yung foundation ng research ng senior high school. Though you have done it. When it comes to, I do not know, application or knowledge, ganyan. Kaya kita mo, pag nag-uusap tayo ngayon, there are terms, there are theoretical knowledge na dapat naiintindihan nyo for you to be able to come up with a good research. Ang pilot test po nga, yun nga po yung sinasabi ko, you will conduct that, okay, sa isang grupo for you to be able to find out kung yung research question mo ba ay madaling intindihin. Okay? Kung ang intindi ba ni Jessa sa number 1 question ay pareho ng intindi ni Jamaica, ni Jana, ni Hazel, ni Eunice, ni Annie, kung 10 yung pilot study nyo, yung bang intindi niya sa bawat question ay pare-pareho. Because that would make your question valid and reliable. Pero kung halimbawa, magkakaroon ng misinterpretation okay, sa mga questions, ibig sabihin yung rephrasing mo ng question ay hindi tama. So, pag nagkaroon ng misconception, ay magkakaiba ng interpretation doon sa isang question, magkakaiba din ang sagot. So, ibig sabihin, hindi na valid yung sagot mo or yung findings mo. Kaya mo siya tinetest, pinapilot test. At the same time, kaya mo rin siya ipapilot test is for you to be able to know gaano ba katagal, okay, na mag-take yung isang respondent mo to answer your question so that when you write your cover letter, okay, you can tell them that it would be taking only 10 minutes of your time, okay, for you to be able to answer the research. So, yung mga ganong bagay, kaya kayo nagpa-pilot study. And I haven't kasi statistics to it. There is a test, okay, called Cronbach's test, okay, for you to be able to, anong tawag dito? Determine the validity of your questionnaire. Okay? So, yun po yung bakit kayo nagpa-pilot test. Pero kung inyong questionnaire ay adapted, hindi na po kailangan. Okay po. Sa sample po, ma'am, ilang sample po ba dapat pag-quanti? Actually, sabi ko nga po sa inyo, if it is 100, tapos 120 yung nasa hospital, huwag na kayong mag-formula. Huwag na kayong magtuos. Get the total population. Remember, yung Sloven's formula nyo, ay meron na po siyang 0.05 degree of error. So, ibig sabihin, kung 100 lamang yung respondent niyo doon sa institution, tapos mag-i-Slovenes ka pa, that would leave you to around 70 or 80. Okay? Paano yung limitasyon? Diba? Paano kung nag-conduct ka ng study, 10 pa yung absent? So, bababa na yung iyong number of respondents doon sa given margin of error. Kaya hindi ako nagpapa-Sloven's formula, okay, kapag konti lang. Actually, the Sloven's formula could be utilized kung ang participant mo ay 1,000. Kasi marami pa rin matitira, kahit meron kang limitation. Okay po, maliwanag po tayo dun sa sample. Maliwanag na po tayo sa instrument. Okay? Data gathering procedure is just a narrative or a story from the start to the finish ng inyo pong research pag-conduct ng research. So it will start with writing letters, okay? Writing letters to your dean if you have a different advisor, writing letters to your dean that you will be conducting your research na, writing letters to the institution that you will be conducting your research in that institution. Like for example, if you will be doing it at Calamba Doctors College, then you have to write Ma'am Magalong through, for example, through the dean or through the principal. So that would start with that, okay? So, tapos po nun, syempre, if you write a letter and they approve of your research, then you will be fielding your questionnaire. So how will you be fielding your questionnaire? So kayo po ba ay mag-room to room? Or will you ask the class presidents to distribute and retrieve your questionnaires? How many days? Or will you be posting dun sa kanilang, ang tawag dito? Bulletin about your research? Tapos yung mga contact person on where to submit? How many days will you leave the questionnaire with them? Or is it an on-site, meaning punta kayo room to room, give the questionnaire, retrieve the questionnaire. Or if it is in the hospital, minsan mahirap yung gano'n, di ba? Kasi busy na nga yung nurse, tapos kukunin mo pa yung 10 minuto niya. So you will leave the questionnaire. So kailan niya siya babalikan? Ba? Yung mga gano'n. That's the complete story from the time that you ask permission from the institution down to the time na ni-retrieve ninyo yung inyong questionnaire at i-data analyze nyo na siya, itatabilize and analysis. Okay po. So, ganun din po pagdating sa qualitative. So, sa qualitative naman po kasi you have also to ask the permission, even kung quantitative kayo po ay pupunta sa community, then you have to ask the permission of the barangay officials. Okay? Kasi mas importante pong alam nila na nandun kayo at nagko-conduct kayo ng study for your safety. You can even ask, for example, help or guide or tanod, okay, para kung kayo po ay mag-house to house for your safety. Hindi kayo basta papasok ha, hindi kayo basta pupunta ng barangay Parian o punta tayo Parian, hindi ganon ha. You should be writing a letter to the mayor, okay, or to the gatekeeper. Ang tawag nila pagdating sa qualitative, to the gatekeeper. Okay? Para alam nila na nandun kayo. Para alam nila na nagpo-conduct kayo ng study. Again, for your safety. So, ganun din po pagdating ng qualitative. You have to ask permission also. You have to ask permission. So, pati po yung pag hingin ninyo ng consent, kasama po sa kwento yun. Okay po. So, pagkatapos po nun, data analysis na. So, sa statistical data analysis, sasabihin niyo lang po kung anong gagamitin yung statistical tool. Like, for example, if you will be using the weighted mean, or if you will be using, for example, chi-square, or Pearson R, or whatever statistics na i-employ ninyo. Yun lang po yun. Hindi niyo na kailangan, actually, sa amin, hindi na pinapasulat ang formula. Kasi, hindi na po uso ngayon na nagpo-formula because you have your, anong tawag dito, you have your app na already na para ma-compute yung inyo pong statistics. So, si Ma'am Laudiano lang po yung naghahanap ng formula, pero hindi naman na po ginagamit yung formula. We use na SPSS, is one. Marami po siyang app na pwedeng gamitin for statistics. So that is the conclusion of your chapter 3. For qualitative researchers, wala po kayong data analysis ha? Because you will not analyze data or numbers. Ang meron po kayo ay forming of patterns. So if you can hold of a research na pwede niyong gawing guide, mas maganda po yun. Okay, kaya nauubos yung research ko dun sa research center kasi ganun na nangyayari tapos hindi na nasasauli. Mas maganda po kasi kung may hawak kayo. That was done to me by my advisor. Binigyan niya ako ng isa ata o dalawa. Kasi sabi ko nga po sa inyo, chapter 3 and other ano naman po ay pwede naman pong copy-paste lang. Or pwede nyo din naman i-enhance, pwede nyo rin naman baguhin lang based on your variables. Again, okay, wag po tayo masyadong magmaganda sa research using highfalutin English, okay, or grammar, kasi hindi po yun kailangan sa research. Kasi hindi po siya literature. Okay? Siya po ay babasahin ng common tao. For those in the field that will not be doing research, they will be research consumer. And if they are research consumer, they are not really familiar with some research, kung palalalimin niyo pa yung English niyo at palalalimin niyo pa yung masyadong kwento ninyo. It would be difficult for the reader. So, ang research po dapat ay reader-friendly. Okay? Kaya yung mga tinatago niyong galing sa English, gamitin, pero dapat po hindi yung malalalim na English. Question po.
Dean, pwede pong mix yung adapted.
Alin po, alin?
Pwede pong mix yung self-made at adapted. Kunwari po, 10 pong self-made, 10 pong adapted.
Pag 10 na anak, tama na. Tama na. Masyado ka na mahihirapan sa stat. Actually, kami nga pinapayagan namin kahit hanggang 5 indicators lang. Kung mahirap. Pero mas maganda kung 10. Kasi kung 10 na yung adapted mo, ba't magdadagdag ka pa? Kasi if you will be measuring the same variable, edi, anong tawag dito? Bakit may need pa? Same sub-variables? Pwede naman mag-mix, pero hindi na, wag na lang sa same sub-variable. Like for example, paano ba example? If we are, for example, searching about self-care, okay, the self-care that would lead to mental health, for example, and the variables would be that of the different dimensions. Like, for example, if you want to have the physical, social, and emotional, you can have adapted for the physical, you can have your self-made for the social, and you can have, di ba? Pero wag ka nang mag-mix, kung lalo na kung 10 na.
Okay po.
Question pa po. Kasi po, pagkatapos po nito, I would be expecting na kayo po yung nagpapacheck na talaga. Wala na po. Maliwanag na po ang paggawa. Silence means okay na tayo. Maliwanag na po. Sana maliwanag na. Maliwanag ay. Meron pang hindi klaro. Okay, PM na lang po pag may tanong. Sige lang. Gusto ko lang makita kung sino-sino itong mga kausap ko. Wala na? No more question?
Wala na po.
Along the way, pag habang ginagawa nyo, anong lang, okay? Maging kasing kulit lang kayo ng isang tao, pagka kulit. Pagka yung nahihirapan ako, I would be asking sometime call time. Ang hirap kasi nung hindi ko naiintindihan yung yung sinubmit nyo, tapos magbibigay ako ng sarili kong interpretasyon. So, at saka para mas kaya kong paliwanag yung mga usap-usapan at question doon sa inyo. Ang hirap kasi katulad nung kala Miss Perea, parang binalik ko sa kanila, binalik din sa akin. Parang hindi rin kami nagkaintindihan. Ganon din na nangyari kay Migs. Nakailang bato na siya sa akin, lagi ko binabalik sa kanya. Actually, sabi, niloko nga si Migs, galit ka na. Kasi nung nagpa-check siya sa akin, I was having, tawag dito, a formation. Kaya, ano din yan. So, ang ano niya sa akin kasi binabold ko lang daw, tapos nilalagyan ko ng yellow, pero hindi ko alam kung anong gagawin niya doon. So kasi ako rin, hindi ko rin alam kung paano ko ipapaliwanag. Kaya sabi ko, pwedeng tawagan mo ako or tawagan kita para magkaintindihan tayo. So ganun din yung minsan hihilingin ko sa inyo, kapag nag-submit kayo ko sa akin at medyo hindi talaga tayo magtatagpo ng hindi tayo magkukwentuhan, I would be asking you to call me or I will be calling you. Then, pwede po, ano daw yun? Then, pwede po ba magpaiwan sa clip po group namin? Kasama po kayo. Opo, pwede pong Gmeet pag may time para hindi lang isang tao yung kausap. Pwede naman po, walang problema. So, okay na po tayo. Sino ba yung nag-ano ng Meet? Sino ang gumawa? Si Ria. Kasi nagpapaalam kasi Ria si Jessa. Kung pwede daw magpaiwan dito sa Meet, ikaw pala yung gumawa. I do not know kung ano. Okay lang daw. O, sige. Wala na? Wala na? O, pwede na magpaiwan, pero bago magpaiwan, kinuha ko na nung kahapon yung regalo nyo. And I love it. Thank you. Ano yun? Ano yung mga nakasulat? Ano yung mga ano? Hindi naman umabot ng 1 taon. Okay? So, yes po, yung unan. Yapos ko na siya kagabi. Yung ibinigay niya ng metampo ako. Okay na po. Okay lang, mas masarap siyang yakap sa gabi. So we'll have na the group ni Jessa. Hindi naman. Wala pa naman 1 year. Nakakalimutan ko kasi pag napunta ako ng school. Kasi di ba nag-COVID naman after. Kaya hindi ko siya naiuwi agad. So, okay na po. Yung pong walang tanong ay pwede na pong kumain. Aba, wala nagli-live. Natayang pa kayo? Bye din. Bye-bye. Happy dinner. I will be posting pala evaluation ha. Sagot. Evaluation of faculty for this semester. Tinatapos ko lang. Okay po. So ano na pong tanong? Mukhang tayo talaga naiwan. Siri,
Din ipapresent po namin saglit na SOP.
Just
Ano po,
send mo
Dean?
na lang sa akin. Send mo sa akin, tapos sendan mo ako ng related study. Para mabasa ko.
Kasi po din di ba po, yung sa may part na lang po ng HBM. Kasi in-state po namin siya sa may statement of the problem po. Halimbawa po, yung sa may perceived vulnerability po ba, lalagyan pa po ba namin ng tawag dito? Ng sub-variables pa po. Medyo naguguluhan po kasi kami din.
Kasi kung health belief model ka or health belief or health promotion model ka, may mga variables kasi makukuha doon, okay, na pwede mong gamitin sa sub-variables mo. Like for example, ano yung perceived, anong tawag nila nito? Benefit nila of following the health. Pero kung yun ay papasok doon sa ano nyo, pwede rin naman kasi yung isang gabi ko lang kasi dinidiscuss, nagulat ako doon sa isang estudyante ng level 1, bigla akong minessage na kahiga na ako. Pinapa-explain sa akin yung health promotion model na yan. Lord, buti na lang kaya kong i-explain pa bigla-bigla. Di ba meron kasi doon na, tawag dito, kung i-ano nyo itong age at sex, okay, dapat kasi maiaano nyo to that there will be difference ng age group. At dapat po yung age group ninyo hindi rin magkakapareho. Kasi kung ang age group nyo magkakapareho, hindi siya magiging variable. Okay? Hindi siya magiging variable on understanding.
Opo din. Kasi po, yung target po talaga namin, yung